Hello and welcome. It's Dave Michels from TalkingPointz. I'm with, I don't know if I should call you a guest. I don't know what the right term is, contributor, co-conspirator, colleague, whatever. But I'm with Dave Danto. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Give us a few months. We'll figure out what the right terminology is. Right now, we're just kind of winging it.
I'm just kind of winging it. But welcome to TalkingPointz, David. This is our first video. And what I thought we would talk about here is we're just putting together the insider report, which is probably be published by the time this video goes up, but we're just finishing it up here, and we've had some dialogue and conversation. So I thought we would talk about some of these Microsoft announcements that came out, with their quarterly results. And it's always nice when Microsoft gives us little teams numbers, because they don't normally share these numbers. They keep them, locked in a vault.
Yeah,
And
little nuggets of information every once in a
little,
while.
little when you least expect it, and just drops these little numbers, and they're not the same numbers, right? They're like sometimes it's monthly active users, sometimes totally something different. This was a new one. This I never heard this one before, but apparently, actually, this may be the first time they've shared. But they shared that Teams has reached a major milestone of 1 million Teams meeting rooms connected.
Well,
Uh,
let's absolutely pause and congratulate them, even though we're about to spend the next 3 hours tearing those numbers apart. But let's pause and say, look, that's for the industry where it was hard to do anything in video, and you had to convince people to turn their cameras on, and all the things that we lived through. That's an incredible number to fathom. Now, you have to give kudos to what they've done. They've become the de facto product in the collaboration space and in the video space.
It's an absolutely fair point. Sesame Street says, this was brought to you by the letter T or something. Microsoft Teams was brought to you by COVID. COVID changed everyone's expectations and user patterns, and Teams was in the right place at the right time. And give them credit where it's due, it wasn't luck. Microsoft doubled down and really built that product out. And now online meetings have suddenly become normal. Your point was, oh, I hate going on video. I don't want to be on video. All that stuff, all those old conversations are gone. It's just kind of a normal thing now. And so they're celebrating with this major milestone. I'll put that in quotes, major milestone, and 1 million users. So 1 million, not users, 1 million meeting rooms.
Meeting rooms.
So I guess my first question is, Dave, you've been in video, what, 60, 70 years, something like that?
Close. Let's say four
Uh,
decades and leave it at that.
Four decades. Okay, so you didn't say 40 decades. No, Dave,
No,
four
no,
decades.
4 decades.
And let's see. I think I met you when you were a Cisco guy at Dimension Data, doing consulting with Dimension Data Video. So my question is, if I would have asked you then, let's say your Dimension Data Cisco years, if I told you that a vendor will have 1 million meeting rooms in the future, who would you have guessed that would have been?
Wow, that's a good question. At the time, it was like a Polycom world with Cisco making inroads, and then there was the whole telepresence phenomenon. I probably would have picked one of those two companies. Microsoft, for the longest time, the Microsoft people in the space were sticking, a C930 or some other teeny webcam between two flat screens and calling it a meeting room, and it was the laughing stock of everybody in AV. So, I don't think they've ever changed their position. It's just the cameras got better. And the software got better. So now they're able to do it, and it's a tremendous milestone, and it's not something anybody would have expected in terms of the way we were looking at the space in 2006, 2007. I mean, Cisco for a while there with I forget the name of the product, where you pick up the phone and the video just pops up onto your screen automatically. There were a lot of people that really liked using that. There were a lot of people that hated it because they didn't want their video to come on when they didn't expect it. That's where you
But
started.
that was kind of an internal, right? It only worked when you're calling internally. It did that. It didn't
Correct.
do it. Fair is fair. 1 million is a lot of meeting rooms. There's no question about that. Um, One of the big changes, though, as I think about that question I just asked you, is in those days we didn't really know. We didn't know how many meeting rooms there were. I mean, because because you sold something and you don't know whether it was stayed in service, if it ever got installed. You just don't know if a new system replaced it. Where in the cloud world that we live in today with Microsoft Teams, they actually know if things are being used. So in theory, they didn't really have much detail in their announcement, but in theory, these are 1 million active meeting rooms. And
Well,
so
I'll tell you two stories with that very briefly. When I was working in financial services and we were building out the Cisco telepresence rooms, we had some major software issues on a nascent product that it was, and we needed to like roll out something to all the rooms. And when we did that, we wanted to check to see if they were working. And we asked Cisco, "How do you check if your rooms are working?" And say, "Oh, we don't." So, there was this mystery. There were all these hundreds of rooms, but nobody really knew what it was. And honestly, with today's numbers, even though we're in the cloud, even though they're very tightly monitored by Microsoft, you and I, we kind of are familiar with this space. We don't know what this means. Is this a million licenses? Is this a million? Is my room and my phone and my desktop, are they all being counted as three or as one? Or, I mean, it's a big number and we can respect it, but this is as clear as Swiss cheese.
well, it really is, particularly since the biggest vendors of Microsoft meeting rooms are the biggest feature they talk about is the ability to work on different platforms. And so if you have a room, let's say from Logi, and you switch it from Teams to Zoom, is that a room for each? Are we double counting? Can Zoom have this many rooms and Microsoft have this many rooms, and it's the same rooms? Are we double? Is it because Logic can do that, Neat can do that. Cisco doesn't even have to reboot to do that. And so what is a room? Is it an always
Yeah.
on? Is it, I don't really know. We don't have a lot of information on this, but it's a good question.
Yeah.
But like I
And we
said,
we we live in an industry where analysts for at least my entire career have been saying less than 10% of the rooms out there in the world have been equipped for video. I've never believed that number. My personal experience brings it over to more like 40 or 50%, but everybody is still quoting, "Oh, there's such an amazing TAM here, and we have so many rooms that we can address." So I think it's still a big mystery. What isn't a mystery is when people reach out to me on meetings now, for the most part, they're sending me links to Teams for the most part. With the second runner up there is Zoom, the third is WebEx, and I don't think you can even mention the others. I'll get a Google meeting once in a
well,
while.
that's not fair, Dave. That's not fair because it's interesting because there are a lot of different video options. People forget that, So there's the big four. You just mentioned three of them. You got to mention Google Meet too. So there's the big four, but then Ring Central, 8x8, Dialpad. All these vendors have really actually pretty good video solutions,
Yeah,
and we've come so far. Not to mention the CPaaS players and their ability to do video enabled services. And so it's a huge, again, this was brought to you by the pandemic. It really is, video has become so mainstream and so powerful. So that's a great story. What's interesting to me, though, along those lines, though, is you take something like, not all of those vendors I just mentioned actually have rooms. They have desktop video, but they don't actually have rooms necessarily. I don't think Vonage has rooms. I might be wrong. I don't think 8x8 has rooms. But so again, because we don't really know how to count those, let's say there's a 20% margin of error. So Microsoft's major milestone is 800,000 to 1.2 million meeting rooms, which is still, very big numbers. Let's see. So they also announced, they also announced 20 million PSTN users, up 30% year over year. And again, that's also a big number. Everyone tells me that voice is dead. Well, 20 million people apparently disagree.
still have my
And
phone.
there you go, there you go. And so 20 million PSTN, very big number. I mean, Teams is only, what they just had their fifth, or was it fifth year birthday, 6 year birthday?
Yeah,
It's time to
right around that. Like trace it back to just before the pandemic.
Yeah, so that's not a very, to have that many users is pretty impressive.
But
I
then
would
again, no, you have to qualify that before you make your point. That, there never was a, hey, we have a new product, Teams come on board. There was, a Skype for Business that turned into Teams, and there was, the one before that, and the one before that, and all these users came along with, oh, okay, we're shedding the last one and going to the new one.
that's a good point. I'm glad you raised that. And so yeah, if you go back to LCS, it's a 15-year journey or so, and you could even go back to Skype, consumer Skype. No, I guess you couldn't go back to that, but you've got
OCS, LCS,
there,
Skype
a
for
lot of users,
Business.
yeah. But the thing about the 20 million PSTN users, what I want to know, I mean, we talked about some questions with the video number. I want to know how these users are connected, because you can become a PSTN user on Teams a lot of different ways. And so there's the direct, obvious way where Teams just hosts the service, and you get that from Microsoft, which recently went from 3 nines to 5 nines, which really bothers me that they skipped 4 nines. It really that just bothers me. But you can get it right from directly from Microsoft, or you can get it from one of their dial tone partners. So, and then there you've got the direct routing ecosystem, which has been around for, I'm going to say, 4 years, 3 years. And then you've got the new Operator Connect ecosystem, which has been around, basically it's new. So you've got the operator, so you got that option. And then as of the last year or so, you've got Teams Phone mobile
Oh,
users, which I assume also counts. But they actually said it was PSTN users. They didn't say devices. So I guess if I had a smartphone or a soft phone, well, we didn't. I didn't. Okay, so if I have a soft phone and I have a mobile phone and it's the same phone number, that should be one user, right? So I'd be curious how many devices they have on Teams, because you would count. You say, well, we don't have any devices, but a soft phone counts as a device, and so you got at least 20 million devices out there. Be curious to know how many more there are and how these are all connected. That's what inquiring minds want to know. I want to know that.
I think, you have to shrug off the numbers. I think it's fair to look at the year-over-year growth, how it's presented, if they're gracing us with presenting it the same way every year. But,
No.
unless they reveal everything, this is the number of licenses, this is the number of SBC connections, this is the number of PC connections, the number of headsets, the number of smartphone and mobile, unless they reveal everything and let you work the numbers yourself, you got to shrug and say, okay, guys, congratulations, but and I appreciate the year-over-year numbers, but I don't think anybody really knows. What we
Well,
do
actually,
is
you're good. I'm glad you said that, because they actually did a year over year. So this, unlike the meeting rooms, this one actually is 30% growth year over year. So theoretically, that's a consistent approach. The way, and so it didn't have any operator connect numbers, but it's okay. The technology expands and grows. So if we just focus on the 30% growth, that's also pretty impressive.
sure.
Uh, I think Zoom's had numbers like that. Zoom Phone, they don't have numbers like 20 million, but they have numbers like 30% growth. And so I'm not sure if anybody else does, not at least not in telephony. So it's be curious where all these users are coming from. And then there's also, and you raised this earlier, there's also the question is, are they real users or are they licenses? And we don't really know the answer to that, because a lot of times vendors, and it's not just Microsoft, will sell licenses even knowing they're not going to be used, but it's just a way to make a good deal and close a deal. So
Yeah.
so is it really 20 million? But 30% growth, again, we'll celebrate that. So those are the two numbers that came out of Microsoft. And any more thoughts on those as we wrap this up?
No, I have to agree with you. I'm always a critic of theirs, but this is definitely something that's deserving of applause. I think there are more Microsoft stories that we need to cover, things that are not as obvious going on, and I think we should definitely cover them in a subsequent video real soon.
Well, I think well, now that they've got a million meeting rooms, I think they're going to have to be a regular part of our. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this milestone. So we will definitely be covering Microsoft a lot more now.